There is a secret sound, a silent word, which if you will hold it faithfully in the temple of your mind for but 36 seconds, will open the floodgates of your desire. It is not spoken to the world, for the treasure loses its fragrance when cast upon the streets. Tonight, I will give you the key to the inner chamber, where you may whisper in silence and watch the outer world bow before your command. It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. These are not idle words left to echo across centuries. They are the eternal declaration of the mystery of creation. For the word, as spoken of here, is not sound carried upon the wind, nor is it a collection of syllables uttered by the tongue. The word is spirit, and spirit is life. Life is not born from the visible form, but from the invisible vibration, from the seed planted in the fertile soil of consciousness. When you hear the statement, "It is the Spirit that quickeneth," you are told plainly that the power is not in the outer shell, not in the visible arrangement of matter, not in the movement of circumstances, but in the inner principle, the unseen essence that animates all that you behold. I want you tonight to feel the weight of this scripture within yourself. You have spoken many words in your life. You have repeated promises, prayers, complaints, and conversations. Yet how many of those words carried spirit? How many bore life within them? Most of the words uttered by men are without life, for they are idle, spoken from a place of doubt, fear, or repetition. But when a word is spoken in spirit, when it rises not from lips but from deep conviction, it carries within it the germ of creation. It cannot return void, for it has been conceived in the womb of faith. Imagine for a moment a barren land, dry and without fruit. Upon it one may scatter countless shells of seed, broken and hollow, and nothing will grow. But if even a single living seed, whole and potent, falls into the soil, life will burst forth, and in time the barren field will be clothed with abundance. So it is with your words. One word, one phrase, one mantra charged with spirit, carried faithfully in the depths of imagination, is enough to quicken life where before there was only barrenness. When Scripture tells you, "The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life," it unveils the mystery of creation itself. Spirit is consciousness, the unseen awareness that knows itself as I am. Life is the out-picturing of that consciousness in form. If the word is spirit, then the word is consciousness shaping itself into form. What you whisper in silence, what you repeat not with lips but with conviction, is the word clothed in spirit. And once clothed in spirit, it must bring forth life. There was a woman who came to me once, troubled by her health. She had spoken many words of despair. "I am weak. I cannot recover." And so she reaped the harvest of those lifeless words. But one evening, she was instructed to set aside those confessions and take a new phrase, "I am whole, I am strong, I am renewed." She did not shout it to the world. She whispered it in silence, not once, but night after night. At first, it seemed like an empty gesture, as if she were merely pretending. But as she persisted, as she repeated not with lips but with spirit, the words became alive within her. She began to feel wholeness. She began to walk as though renewed. In time, the body followed the spirit, and the illness that once bound her was dissolved. This is the mystery hidden in Scripture. The outer world is flesh, the inner word is spirit. The flesh profits nothing, for it is but the shadow, the echo, the image cast by the Spirit. The inner word alone profits, for it is the cause. When you give life to a phrase within you, when you make it your secret possession, you are stirring the spirit that quickens. That spirit, clothed in the garment of imagination, takes form as the life you live. Think of the child Samuel, who as a boy heard the voice of the Lord calling him in the night. 3 times the voice came, and Samuel thought it was Eli calling. But Eli, perceiving the mystery, told him, "When the voice comes again, say, 'Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth.'" And when Samuel responded with those words, the word of the Lord was revealed to him. What is this story but a parable of the word that comes within us? You too hear the inner call. It comes as desire, as longing, as the faint whisper of possibility. At first you may mistake it for the outer world, for the voice of another. But when you learn to respond inwardly, to say in spirit, "Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth," then the living word is revealed. Do you see now why silence is so powerful? The outer ear is attuned to flesh, but the inner ear hears spirit. That is why the mantra must be repeated in secret. The world hears only sound, but the secret repetition in imagination is heard by spirit, and spirit alone brings life. The outer repetition without inner feeling is flesh. The inner repetition clothed in conviction is spirit, and only spirit quickens. A young man once desired success in his work. He toiled day and night, striving outwardly, chasing opportunities, speaking endlessly of his struggles. Yet nothing seemed to prosper. At last he was told, "Seize your many words to the world. Choose one phrase that implies the work is already accomplished. Hold it silently, faithfully, for but a few moments each night." He chose, "It is done, it is finished." At first, he doubted. He thought, what power can lie in these few words, repeated in silence? But he obeyed. Each night, before sleep, he entered the stillness, repeated the phrase, and let it sink into his being. Within weeks, opportunities unfolded in ways he could never have engineered. The success he longed for came, not by outward striving, but by the inner word that carried life. So I tell you, never despise the simplicity of the word. The world esteems complexity, long prayers, and elaborate rituals. Yet the word that quickens is simple, secret, and alive. The smallest phrase, when spoken in spirit, has more power than the longest speech spoken in flesh. One word, "I am," when felt, contains the whole of creation, for it declares being itself. And from being, all things flow. The prophet declared, "So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it." Notice, it does not say some words, but my word. And what is that word but the word clothed in spirit? When you speak with the inner conviction of being, you have sent forth the living seed, and it cannot return void. The field of the world must bring forth fruit in its season. Let us look deeper still. When it is said, "The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life," you are invited to see that the word is not merely descriptive but creative. Most men use words to describe what already is. I am poor. I am sick. I am lonely. These words are shadows, lifeless echoes of what is already seen. But the creative word does not describe, it declares. It speaks of that which is not yet seen, but which the Spirit affirms as already true. To say, "I am rich," when all appearances declare poverty, is to speak a word in spirit. To say, "I am strong," when the body is weak, is to speak a word in spirit. These words, held in silence, carry the seed of life. They are not idle descriptions, they are decrees of being. Do not mistake me. The word need not be long. It need not be adorned. A simple phrase born of desire and carried with faith is more powerful than volumes of empty speech. The shepherd boy David faced the giant Goliath, not with elaborate armor or lengthy incantations, but with a single declaration of faith. "This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand." He spoke the word in spirit, and the giant fell. So too must you face the giants in your world. Fear, lack, disease, not with many words, but with the living word. And consider this, the word is not merely repeated but felt. To speak in spirit is to feel the reality of what you say. When you whisper in silence, "I am loved," and feel the warmth of love enfolding you, then your word carries life. If you merely repeat the phrase without feeling, it is flesh, and flesh profits nothing. But when you clothe the word in feeling, it becomes spirit, and spirit quickens. Thus I say to you, take heed to the words you speak within, for every inner word is a seed, Idle complaints are seeds too, and they bear fruit after their kind. If you would change your harvest, change the seed you plant. Choose words of life, words of spirit. Whisper them in silence. Clothe them with feeling. Hold them faithfully, even for but 36 seconds. And the barren fields of your life will blossom with abundance, for the word cannot return void. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. And life is the outpicturing of spirit. All that you behold without is but the harvest of words once sown within. Therefore, if you would change the life you live, change the words you speak in spirit. For in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The law is simple as you assume, so shall it be. This truth has been spoken in many forms by prophets, poets, and mystics through the ages, yet man resists it because it strips away his excuses. He would rather believe in chance, in fortune, in the shifting tides of fate, than in the simple yet terrible responsibility of assumption. For if what a man assumes inwardly must in time be reflected outwardly, then no longer can he blame others, no longer can he protest that life has been unjust. The mirror only shows the face it beholds. Change the face, and the reflection must change. When I say assumption, I do not mean idle daydreams. Assumption is not the fleeting thought that crosses the mind, nor the wishful hope spoken half-heartedly. Assumption is the acceptance, the inward appropriation of a state as though it were already fact. It is the inward act of faith, clothing desire with the garment of reality and dwelling in it until it feels natural. You may call it belief or conviction or faith, but I call it assumption. For to assume a state is to take it upon yourself, to carry it as though it were yours already, and to live inwardly from that position. Consider the child who plays at being a king. He does not merely say, "I want to be king." No, he assumes the role fully. He sits upon a chair as if it were a throne. He gives commands as if he were sovereign, and in his imagination he reigns. Though the world around him still sees a boy with a paper crown, in his inner world he is monarch. And that assumption so fills him that his whole bearing changes. He walks differently, he speaks differently, he thinks differently. The outer world may not yet acknowledge his kingship, but within he wears the crown. That is the essence of assumption. Now, if a child can assume a role so naturally, why does the adult struggle? Because the adult has been trained to look always to the evidence of the senses. He says, "I am poor because my bank is empty. I am ill because the doctor declares it. I am unloved because no one calls my name." He does not realize that these outer facts are shadows, reflections, the echo of prior assumptions. He has chained himself to appearances, believing the shadow to be the cause. But the law is clear: appearances follow assumptions, never the other way. To free oneself from the tyranny of facts is to begin the true work of creation. Think of the farmer who sows seed. He does not look at the empty field and say, "There is no harvest, therefore there can never be one." He knows the barren ground is but the temporary state before the seed matures. He plants in faith, waters in patience, and assumes the harvest long before it comes. He plans his barns, he sharpens his sickle, because he knows the crop will appear. Though his eyes see only empty earth, his assumption is of abundance, and his assumption is what brings it forth. So too must you treat the fields of your life. The barren ground of appearances is not your truth. Your truth is the seed of assumption planted within. There was a man who longed for reconciliation with his estranged brother. For years they had lived apart, bound by resentment, each convinced the other must take the first step. Outwardly, the facts seemed fixed: silence, distance, anger. But one evening he chose to assume a different state. He sat quietly, closed his eyes, and imagined hearing his brother's voice filled with warmth, saying, "It is so good to see you again." He repeated this scene nightly, not as a wish but as an inner reality. Inwardly, he felt the bond already healed. Weeks later, without effort, the brother wrote him unexpectedly, asking to meet. The reunion was tender, and both marveled at the sudden change. Yet it was no accident, it was the law. The inner assumption preceded the outer fact. You may object and say, but the world is vast and other men have wills. How can my assumption change them? I answer, all is one consciousness, one spirit, clothed in many forms. When you assume a state, you impress the universal substance, and it arranges the circumstances, the actions, the very thoughts of others to mirror your assumption. You do not coerce another, you awaken in them the role that corresponds to your state. As the seed in the ground draws the rain, the sun, and the hidden forces of the earth to itself, so does your assumption draw the elements needed to bring it into manifestation. The law is impartial. It does not concern itself with whether your assumption is noble or ignoble, wise or foolish. It simply reflects. If you assume lack, it will bring forth lack. If you assume abundance, it will bring forth abundance. This is why it is written, be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. The sowing is assumption, the reaping is the outer life. If you would reap differently, sow differently. The world will mock this, saying, you must face facts. But I tell you, facts are but yesterday's harvest. Change the assumption, and tomorrow's facts will change. Let me tell you of a woman who desired a home of her own. She lived in a small rented room with no money for a house and no prospect of inheritance. To her friends, it was impossible, yet she took the law to heart. Nightly she assumed she was already in her home. She walked through the rooms in imagination, touched the walls, felt the comfort of her own bed beneath her roof. She even invited friends in imagination, hearing them exclaim how lovely her house was. She did this not once or twice, but with persistence until it became real within her. Months later, an unexpected chain of events unfolded. A relative she had scarcely known left her a modest inheritance, and with it she purchased a home. Her friends called it luck. She knew it was law. The inheritance was but the bridge the law used to bring forth what was already assumed. Do you see now the simplicity and the power of this law? To assume the wish fulfilled is to accept it as fact within, and the world must conform. The world is a mirror, not a master. It cannot resist the inner decree. When you say within yourself, I am, you set the course of your life. If you say, I am weak, the body will echo it. If you say, I am strong, strength will appear. If you say, I am poor, lack will find you. If you say, I am rich, the avenues of wealth will open. The law knows no other path, yet man delays his blessings by wavering. He assumes one moment, then denies the next. He plants seed today, then digs it up tomorrow to see if it grows. He whispers, I am healed. But when symptoms persist, he cries, I am still sick. He has not yet learned the patience of faith. The farmer does not dig up the seed to check its progress. He trusts the unseen growth beneath the soil. So must you assume, and then rest in the certainty that the seed is already germinating. The outer world may still appear barren, but beneath the surface, life is stirring. And let us go deeper still. To assume is to become. When you assume a state, you are not pretending. You are not lying to yourself. You are clothing the invisible reality in feeling, making it real within you. Pretending says, I hope to be. Assumption says, I am, and I am is the name of God. To declare, I am, followed by your desire, is to unite yourself with the creative power of the universe. When Moses asked for the name of the eternal, the answer came, I am tit I am. That is the eternal law. I am that which I assume myself to be. Therefore, never say, I will be. For I will be places your desire forever in the future. Always say, I am. If you long for peace, do not say, I will be at peace. Say, I am at peace, and feel the stillness wash over you. If you long for freedom, do not say, one day I will be free. Say, I am free, and walk in the liberty of that state within. The law is now. Spirit knows only the present. Assumption is always of the present moment. Perhaps you wonder, How can a mere assumption bring forth such change? It is not mere assumption. It is the creative act itself. Consciousness is the only reality. What you are conscious of being, you become. The world is consciousness objectified. The chair you sit upon was once an assumption in the mind of its maker. The building you dwell in was once an assumption in the mind of the architect. The very clothes upon your body were once assumptions in the minds of designers. All that you see began as assumption. To assume is to begin the work of creation. Let me give you a simple exercise. Tonight, before you sleep, choose one desire. Do not scatter your attention. Take one. Enter the silence, close your eyes, and assume the state of its fulfillment. If it is wealth, feel the weight of money in your hand. Hear someone congratulate you. See yourself living in the ease of abundance. If it is health, feel the vitality coursing through your body. Hear the words, "You are well." If it is love, hear the voice that calls you beloved. Feel the warmth of arms around you. Hold this state not as something you hope for, but as something you already are. Do this faithfully, and you will prove the law for yourself. Remember, always the state precedes the fact. Never wait for facts to change before you assume. Change your state, and the facts must follow. The law is impartial, unfailing, and exact. As you assume, so shall it be. Close your eyes, and let us enter together the sacred chamber of imagination, for here lies the workshop of creation, the place where all things are formed before they appear upon the stage of life. The senses will tell you that what you see and touch is reality, but I tell you the senses are servants, not masters. They report only what imagination has already decreed. If you would change the report, change the decree. If you would see a new world, see it first within. Imagination is not the fleeting fancy of idle moments. It is not the plaything of children or the artist's tool alone. Imagination is the eternal power of creation, the divine spark within you that fashions substance from spirit and brings into form the things that were not. All that you behold in this vast universe, every building, every song, every invention, every kingdom, began first as a vision in imagination. The airplane was once no more than a vision in the mind of man who refused to accept the chains of gravity. The symphony was once silence until it was heard in imagination before ever it was performed upon strings and horns. The home you dwell in was once lines upon a page, and before that a vision within the mind of one who dreamed of walls, windows, and hearth. You must therefore come to revere imagination as the Holy of Holies, the secret place where the Most High dwells. For here, in the silence of your inner vision, you may behold the world you desire as though it were already true. And if you will hold it faithfully, if you will clothe it with feeling and walk in it as reality, it must in time be made visible. I tell you, to imagine is not to pretend. Pretending says, "This is not true, but I will play as if it were." Imagination says, "This is true within, and because it is true within, it will in due season be true without." Pretending is a shadow, imagination is the substance itself. The prophet declared, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." Imagination is that faith made alive. It is the evidence of what has not yet appeared, the assurance that the unseen is more real than the seen. Let me guide you now in the act itself. Suppose you desire wealth. Do not merely say, "I want money." That is to dwell in longing, not fulfillment. Instead, close your eyes and enter the scene that would be true if you were already wealthy. Perhaps you are holding a check written in your name, or feeling the crisp texture of notes in your hand. Do not see the money from the outside as though it were separate from you. Enter into possession. Feel it in your palm, fold it, place it in your wallet. Hear the rustle as you count it. Let the weight of it press upon your hand. If you would rather, imagine a friend congratulating you, saying, "I am so glad you have found success." Hear their voice, see their smile, feel their handshake or embrace. Let the scene be vivid, alive, and above all, let it imply that the wish is fulfilled. Suppose instead you seek health. Do not dwell upon sickness or beg for healing. Instead, imagine the after picture. Hear the doctor's voice say, "You are perfectly well." Feel the strength in your body as you rise and move. Imagine running freely, or climbing stairs without effort, or lifting your child into your arms with ease. See yourself radiant in the mirror, whole and vital. Do not ask when or how, live now in the state of wholeness. For imagination creates now. And if it is love you seek, do not lament the absence of companionship. Close your eyes and imagine the warmth of one who loves you dearly. Hear them call your name in tenderness. Feel the pressure of their hand in yours. Imagine the joy of a shared meal, the laughter echoing between you, the quiet comfort of resting together. Enter the scene so fully that you no longer long for love, for in imagination you are already loved, and the outer world must mirror the inner vision. This is not idle fantasy. Fantasy is the daydream of a wandering mind, flitting here and there without root. Imagination is focused, intentional, purposeful. It is the shaping power of consciousness. When you choose a scene and enter it deliberately, holding it until it takes on the tones of reality, you have planted a seed in the soil of the subconscious. And just as surely as seed grows after its kind, so will this inner scene unfold in the world of facts. Consider the man who longed to travel abroad but had no means. He closed his eyes nightly and imagined standing on the deck of a ship, feeling the ocean breeze upon his face, hearing the gulls cry overhead, watching the waves break upon the bow. He felt the thrill of departure, the taste of salt in the air, the sway of the vessel beneath him. Night after night he entered this vision until it became so real he could almost smell the sea. Weeks later, a friend he had not heard from in years wrote him with an invitation and a paid passage for a journey overseas. The world thought it coincidence. He knew it was imagination outpictured. I say to you, choose carefully the scenes you entertain, for imagination is always creating, whether you use it consciously or not. If you dwell in fear, imagining sickness, loss, or failure, you are planting seeds that will in time bear fruit after their kind. But if you dwell in faith, imagining joy, abundance, and victory, those too will take root. The law cannot be mocked. You will reap what you sow. Imagination is the plow, the seed, and the rain. It is the beginning of every harvest. You may say, but I cannot imagine clearly. My mind wanders, my pictures are faint. Do not be discouraged. The power lies not in the vividness of the image, but in the intensity of the feeling. If you can feel it real, though the picture be dim, it will bear fruit. As a blind man imagines without sight, so can you imagine without perfect clarity. The essential thing is to enter into the state, to feel the reality of the wish fulfilled, and do not make the mistake of placing yourself outside the scene. If you imagine yourself being congratulated, do not see yourself as an actor upon a stage, as though you were watching another. Enter into the body. Look through your own eyes. Feel the handshake in your palm. Hear the voice in your own ears. Smell the fragrance in the air. Occupy the scene as if it were happening now. That is the secret of successful imagination. Let me tell you of a woman who desired marriage. Night after night, she imagined a ring upon her finger, felt its weight, turned it, admired its gleam. She imagined her friends noticing it, hearing their congratulations, feeling her own joy. She did not know who the man would be, nor when, nor how. She concerned herself only with the end. Within a year, she was married, and her husband presented her with a ring strikingly similar to the one she had so often admired in her mind. She had entered the vision until it was real, and life mirrored her assumption. The world will say, but she was lucky. I tell you, luck is the name men give to law when it favors them. It is no luck, it is imagination clothed in fact. The world you see is imagination crystallized. To change the crystal, to change the mold, change the image. Some will say, but imagination is not real. And yet, what is more real? The outer world passes away, buildings crumble, empires fall, bodies wither. But imagination endures. The unseen vision becomes stone and iron, flesh and blood, then dissolves again into vision. Imagination is the only enduring reality, for it is the root of all that appears. The psalmist declared, "He spake, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast." The speaking is imagination. To imagine is to speak the creative word. To command is to hold the vision with faith, and the world must obey. So I say to you, begin this very night. Choose the scene that would be true if your desire were already fulfilled. Enter it in imagination, not as a spectator, but as participant. Let it be short, simple, vivid. Repeat it until it takes on the tones of reality. Feel it so deeply that when you open your eyes, the outer world seems the shadow, and the inner world the substance. Do this, and you will have discovered the secret chamber where all creation begins. The state precedes the fact. This is the eternal order of creation, and until you grasp it, you will remain a servant to appearances. Men believe the outer fact is the cause, and that they themselves are at the mercy of circumstances. They look at poverty and say, "Because I have no money, I must be poor." They look at sickness and say, "Because I feel pain, I must be ill." They look at loneliness and say, "Because I have no companion, I am unloved." Yet all of this is an inversion of truth. The outer fact is not the cause but the effect. It is the shadow, the echo, the mirror. The true cause is always within, the state assumed, the inner position taken, the feeling embraced. The fact cannot exist unless the state has been assumed first. You must understand that the world you move through is nothing more than crystallized states of consciousness. Every man and woman you encounter is bearing witness to the state you occupy. Every event you call circumstance is the outpicturing of an inner condition. You may not remember entering the state, but you cannot escape its harvest. The law is impartial as within, so without. And therefore, if you would alter the facts of your life, you must first alter the state in which you dwell. Let me illustrate this with a simple parable. There was a traveler who came to a village carrying a lamp. The village lay in darkness, and all the inhabitants stumbled in the night. The traveler lifted the lamp, and the streets were lit. The villagers rejoiced, but they said, "Surely this lamp has brought us light." The wise man among them answered, "No, the lamp was but the outer fact. The light was already burning within. Without the flame, the lamp is nothing, and so it is with life. The outer fact, the lamp, has no power of its own. It is the inner flame, the state, that gives it life. There was a man who longed for promotion in his business. Outwardly, it seemed impossible. Others were more qualified, more favored, and he was overlooked time and again. But inwardly, he assumed the state of already being promoted. Each night before sleep, he imagined sitting at a desk in a higher office, feeling the weight of responsibility, hearing his colleagues congratulate him. He entered the state as if it were already real. For weeks nothing changed. Then suddenly, without warning, the man who held the desired position was transferred to another branch, and he was naturally placed in the role. Outwardly, it appeared accidental. In truth, the outer fact was the natural outpouring of the inner state he had faithfully assumed. Notice the order: the state first, the fact later. The fact could not appear until the state had been occupied. You may say, "But what if I assume wrongly? What if I take on a state that leads to sorrow?" Then I tell you, the law is not mocked. The world does not question whether the state you occupy is wise or foolish. It simply mirrors it. If you occupy a state of fear, you will meet with fearful facts. If you dwell in resentment, the world will provide you with enemies. If you persist in lack, circumstances will confirm your poverty. The state you occupy is the cause, and the fact is the inevitable effect. This is why it is written, "Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment." Righteous judgment is not the acceptance of fact, but the recognition of state. Do not look at the sick man and say, "He is ill." Look instead at the state he has assumed, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and see that if he would but change the state, the fact must follow. Do not look at the poor man and say, he is poor because he has no money. See rather that he is poor because he has assumed poverty. Money is the shadow, not the cause. I recall a story of a woman who was burdened with debt. Her friends counseled her to cut back, to economize, to labor harder. But she understood the principle of state. Instead of dwelling in lack, she nightly assumed the state of abundance. She imagined herself free of all obligations, at peace, with money in her purse. She rehearsed in imagination her creditors, thanking her for payments made. In a short time, an unexpected inheritance was delivered to her, clearing her debts completely. Was it chance? The world said yes. But she knew the inheritance was the bridge the state used to bring about the fact. The state of freedom preceded the fact of freedom. The state is the root, the fact is the fruit. No fruit appears unless there is first a root. You may prune the branches, pluck the leaves, polish the bark, but unless you change the root, the fruit will remain the same. To alter the harvest, you must plant a different seed, nurture a different root. In the same way, you may work ceaselessly to rearrange the facts of life, but unless you occupy a new state, the facts will reappear in the same form. To change the state is to change the root. To change the fact without the state is to polish the bark of the same old tree. A young man once came with a desire to pass an examination. He feared failure, for he had failed before. If he judged by fact, he was unprepared, incapable, and anxious. But he was taught to set aside the fact and assume the state of success. Night after night, he imagined himself holding a letter of acceptance, hearing his friends celebrate his passing, feeling the relief of accomplishment. He did this until the state of success was more real to him than the memory of failure. When the examination came, he sat with calm assurance, for within he had already passed. When the results arrived, he had indeed succeeded. The state preceded the fact, and the fact conformed to the state. You must learn to distinguish between the shadow and the substance. The shadow is the fact, fleeting and dependent. The substance is the state, eternal and causal. When you cling to facts, you live in bondage. When you rise into states, you live in freedom. The outer world is clay, the inner state the mold. Shape the mold, and the clay must follow. And what is a state? It is a mood, a position of consciousness, a feeling of being. You can sense it when you enter it. To dwell in joy is a state. To dwell in sorrow is a state. To feel love is a state. To feel rejected is a state. To feel secure is a state. To feel afraid is a state. The facts of life will align with whichever state you occupy, for the world is compelled to mirror the inner condition. Have you not noticed that when you are in a mood of anger, the smallest slight becomes proof that the world is against you? And when you are in a mood of joy, even a setback cannot disturb your peace. The mood itself, the state itself, colors every fact you encounter. That coloring is the creative act. Persist in the state, and the world crystallizes around it. One evening, a man sat in despair, believing himself abandoned. He had lost his job, his home was threatened, his friends seemed distant. He judged by fact and declared, "I am ruined." But as he sat in silence, he recalled the law, the state precedes the fact. He rose inwardly into a new state. He imagined himself in a new home, securely employed, surrounded by companions. He gave thanks in advance for the fulfillment. He persisted in this vision nightly. Within months, he was offered a position more lucrative than the one he had lost, and a friend assisted him into a better dwelling. Outwardly, the facts had changed. Inwardly, it was only the harvest of the state he had already assumed. Do not despise the day of small beginnings. A state may feel fragile at first, like a seed scarcely planted. The facts of life may loom large, like towering mountains. But remember, the state is the cause, and the cause need not be mighty to bring forth fruit. A tiny seed of faith can uproot mountains. Persist in the new state, and the facts must bow. This is why it is written, all things are possible to him that believeth. Belief is not acceptance of fact, it is assumption of state. When you believe, you enter into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You abide in it until it feels natural. Then the facts, no matter how stubborn, no matter how entrenched, must yield. The state precedes the fact. This is the law of life, and it admits of no exception. If you would change your life, begin not with the facts but with the state. For the state is the invisible root, and the fact is only its shadow. To the world, this seems folly. To those who practice it, it is salvation. Faith is the daring act of assuming the unseen to be real, of walking as though the invisible promise is already fulfilled, and of standing unmoved though every outer sense may cry in opposition. It is not a weak hope, nor a timid wish. Faith is the deliberate choice to abide in the end, to live from the accomplishment, to rest in the possession of that which the world cannot yet see. The act of faith is sustained imagination, clothed in feeling, carried in the silence of the heart, until the shadow called fact must bend to it. There are those who begin well, who taste the sweetness of assumption for a night or two, but when outer evidence does not instantly conform, they turn back to doubt. They say, I tried, but nothing happened. They fail because they confuse appearance with reality, shadow with substance, fact with cause. The act of faith is to remain loyal to the invisible state, even when the visible world denies it. This loyalty is not passive, it is the fire of persistence, the refusal to abandon what has already been conceived within. Consider the farmer. When he plants seed in the ground, he does not return the next day, see bare earth, and conclude the seed was in vain. He knows that germination is taking place unseen. He waters, he tends, and he waits with calm assurance. So too is faith. When you have planted the seed of assumption in imagination, you must trust that it is working beneath the surface, though no sprout is yet visible. To uproot it with doubt is to destroy the harvest before it begins. To persist in faith is to water it with expectancy until the time of fruit. The act of faith is not burdened by effort, as though straining could hasten results. Rather, it is a quiet confidence, a resting in the unseen. It is written, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The substance is the state assumed. The evidence is the inner conviction that what is unseen is more real than what is visible. To live in that conviction is to walk by faith and not by sight. A woman once longed for companionship, yet all her days testified to solitude. She was tempted to despair, for her friends said, look at the facts. You are alone. But she turned within and assumed the state of being loved. Nightly she imagined hearing words of affection whispered to her, feeling the warmth of a hand in hers. Though her days remained outwardly silent, she kept faith with her unseen companion. Weeks later she was introduced, by what the world calls accident, to a man who embodied the very affection she had imagined. Was it magic? No. It was faith sustained until the shadow matched the inner light. You may ask, but how can I remain faithful when everything contradicts my desire? I say, you must anchor your faith in the eternal, not in the fleeting. If you tie your assurance to outer fact, it will waver with every wind. But if you tie it to the inner state, it will stand unshaken. Remember the words, Abraham against hope believed in hope. He considered not the deadness of his body, nor the barrenness of Sarah's womb, but he staggered not at the promise. He looked away from fact to the invisible fulfillment. That is the act of faith. A man unemployed for months chose nightly to imagine himself gainfully employed. He walked through the scene of shaking hands with an employer, hearing the words, "You are hired." Yet daily he received rejection letters. Others would have surrendered, but he kept the inward vision alive, returning to it again and again until it felt natural. At last, a position was offered to him in a company he had never even approached. The rejection letters were but the fading shadows of the old state. The new state had been conceived in faith, and faith bore its fruit. Faith is tested by delay. Anyone can believe for an hour, but can you stand for days, weeks, or months when no outer sign appears? This is the furnace of faith. To remain unmoved in delay is to prove that your inner state is more real to you than the evidence of sense. To falter is to confess that you still worship shadows. Faith waits, not with anxiety, but with quiet certainty. It knows that what is conceived in the heart will in due time appear on earth. Think of the sculptor. He sees within the block of marble the figure already complete. Though the stone appears formless, his faith in the vision guides his chisel. Each strike, each cut is made in loyalty to the unseen form. So too must you act. Though the outer world appears rough and contrary, your inner eye must remain fixed on the finished work. Each day you move in the world as one who already is what you have assumed. That is the act of faith. Do not mistake faith for passivity. Faith does not sit idle, waiting for things to fall from the sky. Faith walks as though the wish fulfilled were already fact. It dresses the part, speaks the part, thinks the part, and moves in the assumption. The world then conforms naturally, not by force, but by the law of correspondence. A merchant desired success for his business, though sales were meager and customers few. Outwardly, all counsel advised him to close his doors, but he assumed nightly the state of prosperity. He imagined his shop filled with buyers, his shelves empty from purchases. He greeted his imaginary customers with gratitude. In waking life, he began to speak confidently of his thriving business, though the facts denied it. His faith persisted. Soon after, a larger company took interest in his products and contracted with him, multiplying his sales beyond expectation. The world saw luck. He knew it was faith clothed in fact. The act of faith requires a holy disregard of appearances. When Peter stepped upon the water, as long as his gaze was fixed on the Master, he walked unhindered. When he turned to the waves, he sank. The waves were always there, but his faith was the substance that bore him up. In the same way, you must learn to turn away from the waves of circumstance and fix your gaze on the invisible fulfillment. The outer storm cannot drown the one who abides in faith. There is a secret in faith that many overlook: the naturalness of the assumption. To strain to force is to confess you do not yet believe. Faith rests in the end with ease. It is as though the thing desired were the most natural condition of life. A child does not doubt when told that tomorrow he shall go to the fair. He rejoices now as though already there. That is faith. The child lives from the end, celebrating in advance, without anxiety. If you would receive, you must become again as a child. Faith is not anxious repetition. To repeat 1,000 affirmations with doubt in your heart is no faith at all. True faith may speak a single word and rest, knowing it is done. Lazarus, come forth, was not shouted 10 times. It was spoken once with authority, and the dead obeyed. The authority was not in the word, but in the faith behind it. When you know it is so, a whisper suffices. When you doubt, 1,000 cries will not avail. The act of faith often appears foolish to the world. To call oneself rich while one's purse is empty, to declare oneself well while in bed with sickness, to speak of love while alone, these things seem madness. But it is written, God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. The wisdom of this world is bondage to fact. The foolishness of faith is freedom in spirit. What the world mocks today, it must bow to tomorrow. A widow once imagined abundance, though her neighbors mocked her poverty. She persisted, saying, I am provided for. Soon, a distant relative unknown to her left her a fortune. The neighbors called it coincidence. She called it the fruit of faith. She had lived from the end when all evidence opposed her, and the end became fact. Faith does not ask how. It concerns itself only with the end. The means by which the fact appears are not your burden. Leave the bridge of incident to the unseen power that shapes all. Your task is to remain in the assumption of the end, to sustain the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The how will arrange itself. To ask constantly, how will it come, is to betray doubt, to rest in. It is already so, is the essence of faith. In every age, the heroes of spirit have walked by this principle. They called things which were not as though they were, and they became. They stood against armies, against famine, against impossibility, and yet prevailed because their faith did not waver. The same law is yours today. The outer world is plastic to sustained imagination. The act of faith is to hold the inner picture steady until the world reshapes itself accordingly. When doubts arise, as they will, do not fight them with violence. Gently return to your inner vision. Like a mother soothing a restless child, bring your mind back to the feeling of fulfillment. Each return strengthens the state until it becomes natural. Doubt loses its power when ignored. Faith grows strong when exercised. The act of faith is a daily walk, not a single moment. Each thought, each reaction is an opportunity to choose the end over appearances. When insulted, will you assume rejection or remain in the state of love? When delayed, will you assume denial or remain in the state of fulfillment? To remain is faith. To waver is doubt. Life constantly tests your faith, not to break you, but to prove you. A student of this law desired healing. Every symptom in his body spoke of disease, but he refused to bow to fact. Nightly he imagined himself strong, walking freely, living in vigor. Though pain persisted, he kept faith with the unseen health. Over time, the symptoms faded and his body conformed. His testimony was simple. I remained in the state of health until health appeared. That is faith. The act of faith is the courage to see beyond the visible, to hear beyond the audible, to live beyond the tangible. It is the power to stand in the promise, though the wilderness surrounds you. It is the willingness to call yourself what the world denies until the world agrees. It is the invisible strength that shapes kingdoms, the quiet assurance that overturns empires, the silent seed that splits mountains. This is the law of faith, is the assurance of the unseen, sustained until it becomes the seen. The last act before sleep is the most important act of the day, for it determines the first act of the morrow. The mind, in its descent into the depths of unconsciousness, passes through a doorway, and whatever image it carries across that threshold becomes the seed planted in the fertile ground of night. In waking hours, the noise of the senses may distract and scatter attention, but in that sacred interval before sleep, the conscious and the subconscious are joined in intimacy. The conscious sows and the subconscious bears fruit. To neglect this moment is to abandon the richest soil of your being. To guard it is to command your destiny. When the body grows heavy and the lids begin to close, the senses lose their grip upon the world of fact. You are no longer bound by the hard edges of appearances. In that drowsy state between wakefulness and sleep, the imagination becomes sovereign. Here lies the golden key. If you will but occupy that state of consciousness which you desire to externalize, if you will but feel the reality of the wish fulfilled as though it were already so, you pass it into the depths, and the depths bring it forth. A man may wrestle all day with doubt, but if he surrenders at night to the assumption of fulfillment, he has conquered. For the subconscious is impressionable, and it does not argue. It receives the last mood of the day as truth. If you go to bed rehearsing fears, complaints, or failures, you sow weeds that rise to choke your joy. If you go to bed in the spirit of accomplishment, gratitude, and possession, you sow a harvest of delight. That which you accept at night, in the stillness of your descent, will shape your tomorrows. It is written, commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still. This communion is not with another but with the self, clothed in the image of the wish fulfilled. Be still and see yourself as already what you long to be. Let the body rest, but let the imagination work. Do not drift into sleep as a beggar waiting for alms. Drift as a king already enthroned. There was once a young woman who longed for security. Each night she fell asleep worrying over unpaid bills, rehearsing conversations of lack, imagining creditors knocking at her door. Her days repeated the same pattern, for the seed she planted nightly bore its fruit in daily struggle. When she was taught to reverse the process, she began each evening to imagine her bills paid, her table spread, her purse filled. She felt gratitude for abundance before her eyes could see it. She carried that feeling into slumber, and in a matter of months her life turned. A new position, unexpected gifts, and timely opportunities poured in. The cause was not the outer world, but the inner sowing at night. Do you not see the simplicity? What you take as natural before sleep becomes natural in waking. The subconscious is the womb of creation. It receives only that which you impress upon it when the conscious guard is lowered. If you dwell on trouble, it accepts trouble. If you rest in fulfillment, it accepts fulfillment. The choice is ever yours. Children know this law instinctively. A child who falls asleep dreaming of a toy awakes with the certainty of receiving it. There is no doubt, no question, no reasoning. The child has already possessed it in imagination, and the heart rejoices in advance. Adults, hardened by years of doubt, must learn again the innocence of that trust. To lie down in bed with the thrill of possession is the art you must cultivate. You may ask, how shall I do this? Begin by relaxing the body until it grows heavy, as though sinking into the mattress. Let the cares of the day fall away. Then choose the state you desire to embody. If you wish health, imagine the ease of movement, the vigor of life, the joy of well-being. If you wish wealth, imagine the freedom of plenty, the satisfaction of bills paid, the delight of generosity. If you wish love, imagine the warmth of companionship, the tenderness of affection, the joy of union. Whatever you choose, let it be a scene that implies fulfillment. Do not force, simply allow the scene to unfold as naturally as a memory. As you drift into drowsiness, feel the reality of that scene. Do not merely think it, feel it. Let the tones of voice, the touch of hands, the sight of surroundings, all be vivid. Then surrender to sleep as though the dream were true. Carry the mood across the threshold. The subconscious does not know that it is imagination. It knows only that it has received an impression, and that impression will seek expression. There is a story of a man imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. Each night in his cell, before sleep, he imagined himself walking freely through his home, greeting his family, breathing the air of liberty. He felt the freedom so strongly that the bars seemed powerless. Months later, new evidence arose and he was released. To the world it was coincidence, to him it was the law in action. He had lived the end in imagination until the outer world reshaped itself to match the inner. Do not think you are too weary at night to practice this. It takes no strength to imagine, it takes surrender. Even if you can hold the vision for but a minute before sleep overtakes you, that minute is enough. The subconscious magnifies the seed. Just as one kernel of wheat brings forth a field, so one impression before sleep brings forth a harvest in time. Many live unconsciously by this law, sowing nightly seeds of fear and wonder why their days are filled with the same. They lie down rehearsing arguments, imagining sickness, replaying failures. Then they awake to trouble and say, "Why is this happening to me?" It is happening because they themselves planted it. Life does not mock, it fulfills. If you would change your world, you must change your nightly seed. A merchant once told of his transformation. For years he ended his days in complaint, saying to himself as he drifted off, "Business is slow, I am burdened, I cannot succeed." His mornings were heavy, his customers few, his worries constant. When he learned the secret of the last 5 minutes before sleep, he reversed his ritual. Each night he imagined counting money, serving happy customers, expanding his store. He felt the thrill of success as he drifted into slumber. In less than a year, his business doubled. He said, "It was not effort, it was the nightly picture that did it." The mind before sleep is like softened wax. Press upon it the seal of your desire, and it takes the imprint. Leave it unattended, and random impressions from the day will mark it. Be deliberate. Govern the final state of consciousness each night, for that state governs your world. Some will say, "But I forget. Sleep overtakes me before I can imagine." Then make it a discipline to begin earlier, to set aside a few minutes while drowsiness grows. Train yourself as one would train a muscle. In time it will become natural, and the last act before sleep will be the sweetest part of your day. There is a scripture that says, "He giveth his beloved sleep." This is no idle blessing. Sleep is the divine gift wherein creation takes place without effort. What you carry into that gift is what is multiplied and returned. To sleep in fear is to be given fear. To sleep in joy is to be given joy. To sleep in fulfillment is to be given fulfillment. There is no more practical art. The worker who longs for promotion, the sick who longs for health, the lonely who longs for companionship, all may transform their world by mastering the last act before sleep. It costs nothing but attention. It requires no tools but imagination, yet it is the mightiest instrument for remaking life. Think of the potter who places clay upon the wheel. The clay is formless until the potter shapes it. The day's events are clay, but the night is the wheel. What shape will you impress upon it before you let it spin in the silence of unconsciousness? If you leave it untouched, it spins aimlessly. If you impress it with vision, it spins into form. The choice is ever yours. So let each night be holy. Let each descent into sleep be an ascent into the state desired. Guard the threshold as the sacred gate it is. Carry with you the fragrance of fulfillment and let it permeate the depths. Then know that in the mystery of night, it is accepted and shall in due time appear. The journey of life is never shaped by the accidents of circumstance, but by the quiet decisions of the inner self. Every thought you choose, every image you dare to hold, every feeling you carry into the silence becomes the substance out of which your world is formed. The outer is only the reflection of the inner. The mirror can only return the face that gazes into it. To change the reflection, you must change the image you project. You have been given the greatest gift, imagination, the power to assume, to feel, and to embody the reality you desire before your senses confirm it. This is not idle fantasy, but the creative law of existence. To live deliberately is to understand that what you dare to claim in consciousness will, in its own way and time, become visible. Let no one persuade you that you are a victim of chance, for chance itself is but a name we give to the unfolding of unseen causes. Those causes are sound daily and nightly in the garden of your mind. If you would reap beauty, plant beauty. If you would reap abundance, plant abundance. If you would reap joy, plant joy. Life will not betray you, for it has no will of its own apart from the impressions you place upon it. There is no circumstance so fixed it cannot be reshaped, no destiny so sealed it cannot be rewritten, no past so heavy it cannot be transformed by a new assumption held with persistence and faith. The world bends to the inner vision of one who refuses to accept appearances as final and instead chooses to see with the eyes of imagination. So take up this power, not timidly but with confidence. Dare to believe that you are greater than the facts that confront you. Dare to end each day with the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Dare to live as though the unseen were seen and the hoped for already attained. For in daring, you awaken the creative law that has been with you since the beginning, waiting only for your recognition. The whole of life is calling you to remember who you are, the dreamer who dreams and then steps into the dream, the sower who reaps his own harvest, the creator who is never separate from creation. Walk forward in this awareness and let every thought, every word, every feeling be the seed of the world you long to behold. For the kingdom is within you, and all things are possible to the one who dares to assume it so.